Dr. Knos is with us this morning and has received his PhD from the University of Georgia in 2001 and taught construction management at the Southern Polytechnic University in Marietta, Georgia. He also had a company that performed commercial and residential inspections throughout Georgia before selling in 2010. He's currently retired and volunteering in disaster relief worldwide with Disaster Aid USA, a Rotary-affiliated organization. He has extensive experience with sanitation, including being a licensed plumber for over 45 years. Dr. Knos has written a book on sanitizing human waste and using it as fertilizer by using a urine-diverting dehydrating toilet. I'm so excited about this. Rotary has listed him as a sanitation expert and uses him to evaluate sanitation-related grant applications. He is working in developing countries worldwide. Dr. Knos, we are very pleased to turn the video over to you. You are a co-host and
all righty. Mine is on reclaiming urine using a urine diversion dehydrating toilet in developing countries. The use of urine as a natural fertilizer should be promoted worldwide since all of the nutrients required for crops are naturally available wherever there is human habitation. In developing countries, the issue is not the urine, which is naturally sterile or almost sterile, but the problem revolves around the solids, the feces. In developing countries where urine is used for fertilizer, there are options on how to dispose of the feces by using a controlled central sewage plant or an individual septic system. Neither is available in developing countries. So what do you do with the feces? A gram of feces contains more bacteria and viruses than the total population on Earth. So it is an extreme biohazard. If it is not properly contained, so all living organisms in the feces are killed, it has the potential of causing sickness and death. In developing countries, sanitation is the most important issue in preventing sickness. Feces must be dealt with if the urine is to be used. Open defecation is still practiced by about 1.5 billion people. If there is a lack of food, people can survive for weeks. But if there is diarrhea or other intestinal problems, death can be in just a few days. The most common vector for pathogens for untreated feces that enter the water through insects and vermin that are also excellent spreaders. Even if a well is dug and clean water is available, the vermin and insects will still spread the pathogens. Dried feces on the ground can also be spread on human feet or wind blowing contaminated dust. The critical issue is feces must be treated to kill all pathogens in order to use the urine. How should the feces be treated? The most common method in developing countries, and the cheapest and simplest, is a pit or trench toilet, or more commonly called latrines. There is no more than basically a hole or a slit in the ground. The downside is that the pathogens can still seep into the drinking water, and flies, roaches, or rats can still spread the germs and viruses. A system is needed that totally seals the feces until the pathogens can be destroyed. A septic system will work, but it is too difficult and expensive to build and install in outlying areas, and of course the urine would not be available for use. What is needed is a system that is easier to build, that also provides the additional benefit that kills all pathogens. This is where the urine diversion dehydrating toilet becomes such a good device. A urine diversion dehydrating toilet, UDDT, will provide a beneficial product, the urine, which can be used quickly. The feces are isolated for an additional 6 months, so the pathogens can be killed. You ask how we know that the pathogens have all died in the 6 months. In reality, we don't. We know that all pathogens will die at 160 degrees Fahrenheit or 72 degrees centigrade. But we don't know that the inside of the UDDT has reached that required temperature or that all the feces have reached that temperature. With the window facing south in the storage area of the feces, we know that with sunlight, we will definitely reach 160 degree temperature. We know that in 6 months, that feces will stored, they will be dry, the temperature will be hot numerous times at various temperatures, and that if not all, most pathogens will be dead. The way of thinking is not acceptable in developed countries where 100% certainty is demanded. When the feces are removed in 6 months, it will be classified as a soil conditioner and will be tilled into the soil. There may still be a small percentage of pathogens left in the order of probably less than 1%, and that will be acceptable. The sun and soil will destroy any remaining bacteria and viruses. More studies are needed to be performed on what it takes to kill all pathogens at various times and temperatures. As stated earlier, the urine is sterile or nearly sterile, and it is stored for a week in a sealed container and will be available for use and typically will be inserted directly into the ground. Soils in developing countries are typically in poor conditions due to years of growing with no soil nutrients being added. On one project in a Mexican village, even where nitrogen fertilizer was added to the soil, the black beans and chilies were 50% smaller than the same crops in the USA. Since fertilizer is expensive, the farmers do not have the financial resources to add the recommended amounts, so typically an inadequate amount is applied. The synthetic fertilizer is also harsh on the soil and kills most micronutrients. Instead, the urine is applied at the proper time, can supply the proper amounts of the macronutrients, the potassium, the phosphorus, the nitrogen, for healthy crops. The treated feces will be used as a soil conditioner and will, over time, promote worms, microorganisms that will help provide the required micronutrients. The soil will be dark and rich at that point. Most societies have an aversion for using human excrement or urine for any purpose, treated or not. Humans innately know that bad things happen if they're exposed to human waste. In societies where people defecate outdoors, they will usually go away from the village to, say, do their thing, which can also be dangerous, especially for women. Excrement smells, urine smells, all says to keep it away from human habitation. To break the cycle and convince the village to use human waste for crops takes education. You have to change the thinking of the village and educate them to the benefits. As an outsider, you do not have the trust and will be looked on as an outsider. You need to find the village influence that convince her, it usually is a her, of the advantages. The advantages could be the elimination of smell, dangers of being outdoors, reduction of vermin and insects, health, or using urine for fertilizer. In sales, we call it the unique selling points, USP, and you need to find what the USPs are for that particular village. You may need to have the demonstration plot that shows how the healthier and larger the vegetables are from the urine garden. You will also need to eat the vegetables to show them that they are safe. One of the advantages of the UDDT is that it can be built on site by local labor. Unemployment is one of the biggest problems in developing countries. Anything we can do to provide meaningful work is greatly appreciated. Work is one of the most important benefits you can provide that will help sell the UDDTs. In this case, we need bricklayers, concrete workers, plumbers, and carpenters. They will all become promoters of the toilets. For the sanitation benefits to work, everyone has to use the UDDT. If one person is unwilling to use it, then the excrement will pollute the entire village. This is where the influencer comes in. She can force through various means the person unwilling to conform to be part of the village. I have seen companies that are also advertising pre-made units, usually fiberglass, that can be dropped into a village. I would not recommend them since they take away from the buy-in by the local village which is providing employment, and they are difficult to repair. In all work in developing countries, keep as much local as possible. Urine diversion dehydrated toilets, UDTTs, are used in all parts of the world and have shown to be a valuable asset to a village if properly used. The urine will grow substantial crops, and removing the human waste will make everyone healthier. Once the village is sold on the idea and embraces the UDT, the benefits effects will become apparent very quickly. Money needs to be raised to build the units, and a village board can be started that controls and monitors the UDTs and makes sure that they are used and properly maintained. A fee can be levied for the farmers to use for the use of the urine, and that money can supply the funds for maintenance and building additional units. Neighboring village can see that the village with the UDTs do not have the diarrhea problems, the babies are healthier, men have work, and the farmers are growing larger and healthier crops. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tori. It's a very compassionate conversation you've brought forward, pretty much circling the whole issues that people are facing in developing countries. And clearly you have been there and on the ground and doing that work firsthand. We've also have never had a connection or had someone who has a plumbing license or who has been an active plumber for years to be really uh, tuned into our work. And so it's really wonderful to have your perspective and all your years of experience and dedication to this important topic.